GamerCast Network.
Hey. All right. It's a video game show. It's a video game show. It's not a game show about videos. It's a video game show.
Welcome to the GamerCast Network video game show for Sunday, March 8th, 2009. This is episode 132. I'm Chad, and this week for the roll call, what is the worst game packaging you've ever seen or experienced? And packaging as an overall form of the packaging or box art itself. And joining us this evening is Chris.
My worst is when they take retail cards, so like Xbox Live subscription cards, and then they put them inside of the sealed plastic that you can't open even if you have a razor sharp utensil, because it's overkill. It's ridiculous. You don't need all that.
Why wouldn't you just buy it on your Xbox then?
I don't know. I assume because retail people are getting angry, because if The Lost in the Dam is only online and it's not available at retail stores, then GameStop gets angry.
What if I decide to purchase a live subscription for, say somebody else that I know, as a gift?
Like Steam's gifting?
Oh, but that's for Steam. I'm talking about Xbox Live in particular.
Well, but they don't have the feature, unfortunately. If they did, it would be sweet. You can gift all these little games to everyone. That would be cool.
Yeah, how hard could it be? You click on a button that says gift to gamertag, and then it sends them a message on their Xbox and says, you've been gifted. You're gifted.
You're gifted.
Also joining us is Phil.
The thing that I hated the most back when people used to make the cardboard box, like the PC packaging, is when they had the clear plastic sticker over the top, and in order to open the game, you have to either cut or rip the sticker open. Usually you rip off half the text or half the box art. Got to the point where I just use a razor to cut it open.
Next on the list is Ivan.
So I have two things. I love that they have standardized like boxes. So when you buy an Xbox 360 game, it doesn't matter who you buy it from. It's going to be the same size and shape. But the one thing that annoys me is when they take the game and they put it in the container, and then they put stickers on all three sides that are hard as hell to get off, and then they wrap the thing in cellophane. But it's the kind of cellophane where there's no good way to start opening it. The other thing that annoys me, now that they've standardized cases, is now the big thing in console games is the collector's editions or whatever. So now you're back to big, oddly shapen cases. Like the Fallout 3 collector's edition I bought came in a frickin' lunchbox. So now I've got all my games lined up and then a lunchbox sitting on top of all of them. Oh, here's another good one. The thing that annoys me is like Gears or Halo 3 comes in an extra wide one with like 3 discs in it and then a sleeve. I'm not a collector of this stuff, but I like to keep most of the stuff that I get with the game, so I don't throw the sleeve away. If I've taken Halo out or Gears out to put another game in, then I gotta take the sleeve off, open it up, flip it open 3 times to get to the right panel that's got the empty spot for the DVD, put that in, fold it all back up, close it, put the sleeve back on instead of just opening up a case.
That sounds like a lot of hard work right there.
That's a lot.
That's a lot, yeah.
And Halo Limited Edition came in a helmet, and it's impossible to put a helmet in your bookshelf because you're just like, what the heck?
Well, that was like the stupid edition. There was like 15 versions of Halo, although I didn't even pay for my version of Halo. If I would have, I wouldn't have purchased. Even take my favorite game ever, and I probably wouldn't buy the stupid collectible helmet edition.
And finally joining us is Bob.
Not talking about games that are special collector's edition, but anybody remember the box that Viva Pinata came in, which is one game that got gifted to me and is still sitting on my shelf and doesn't fit. And not only is it the wrong shape, it's awful quality as well. Like, it's cheap and it's kind of warped in a certain direction because the plastic is thinner. And it's like, I have all my Xbox games and they're exactly the same size boxes, except for that. I should really just put it somewhere because I've only played it twice anyway. But I wish Tom was here because my second comment was, as far as game that looked horrible just from packaging, was Shadowrun. That had no business having the cover art that it had. They should have paid somebody some legitimate money to put a decent picture on there. But instead it looked like some literal 1980 cheap off-brand expansion that was like, the stuff that wasn't really made by TSR but worked with D&D. It looked like that art.
My answer is the old PC games from the 90s where they were all oddly shaped boxes, like the Tomb Raider triangular ones. Not very standardized.
Yeah, they were all over the place.
What was the theory with that? Was they were trying to separate their game from the others, making it stand out? Like, hey, look at our game.
I would guess yes. It seemed like for a while there was a arms race to who could have the gaudiest, shiniest, most ginormous box on the shelf. I wish I could remember. I thought there was one game where they made their box so damn big that the retailers wouldn't carry it.
I was going to say, I think we had this conversation because somebody had mentioned retailers hated that. So yeah, it stood out from the others because they couldn't stack it on a shelf.
Right, and they'd have to like put it on a different shelf all for itself off to the side and make it look special. And so I think there was one that finally like was the straw that broke the camel's back, and they just wouldn't carry it, and I forget what the hell it was.
Don't ever play the GameStop employees from the early 80s in Tetris, because that's what they did all day, was try and fit those effing boxes onto the shelf.
This week on the GamerCast Network. On Sarcastic Gamer Pick, the ladies debate the World Cyber Games Ultimate Gamer. Retroforce Go is all about the console that started it all, the original NES. Oh sure, there was Atari and the Commodore 64 before it, but for the sake of this episode, we're going to pretend none of those exist. Check out the Post-Game Report to get all the facts. Post-game. On Sarcastic Gamer, Toys R Us Red Band's mature titles, plus more issues with video game reviewers. Discover the community that brings you all these great podcasts and more. GamerCastNetwork.com.
Next topic.
iDracula's good, dude. Good recommendation, Ivan.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Once you get the hang of the controls.
First up, we probably should get some background to this game. This is an iPhone game called iDracula. It's on sale right now for $1. It plays like Crimson Lands.
Standard two-stick shooter like Geometry Wars or any of those other Xbox Live Arcade games where the only controls you need are the two sticks. So instead of sticks, because there's obviously not physical sticks, they take the sticks and they two-dimensionalize them onto the screen, so you're moving these little wheels around instead of the actual sticks.
The only real problem I have with the game is that the camera is really zoomed in on the character. I couldn't get a feel for the area around me.
Yeah, and the control wheel things can kind of... or it's not so much the control wheel things, because I found there's a setting where you can actually turn them off. The problem is that your thumbs kind of actually get in the way. Because the screen's only, like 3 inches, and so you put your thumbs on either corner, and that takes up well over half of the bottom of the screen.
However, Ivan, you mentioned there's a way to turn those wheels off?
Yes, you can turn the actual wheels off. I'm assuming the control's the same way. You still swirl your thumbs around.
I was confused there for a second because you said you could turn the wheels off, and I was like, well, then what do? Spin the iPhone on the table or something?
Just kind of shake him into the monsters.
There's no setting for turning your thumbs transparent, though, unfortunately.
The only other problem I really have is since you only have two buttons, essentially, the two wheel things. In order to switch weapons, you essentially have to move your hand off of one of the wheels and move left or right to change weapons. You can't switch weapons on the fly. You essentially have to either stop shooting or stop moving.
It's only $1?
Yeah, man. And there's a big update. iPhone companies or people or whoever makes the games are doing a cool job of, they'll release the game and then they'll come out with pretty large updates. Like the update for iDracula is going to have a whole nother themed level, a whole bunch of new monsters, a bunch of new perks, and a bunch of new weapons, and it isn't going to cost you anymore. Whereas he could have probably released a different game, iDracula 2, for $1, because it's only $1.
Well, the thing is, people, and this might change in the future, but people are just getting freaking rich off this. I know the guy who did there's a game called iShoot that I think we talked about. It's a Scorched Earth kind of Worms tank game. And I read somewhere that the guy has already sold, millions of downloads of this game. Sure, Apple takes a cut, but the guy's already made over $1 million selling this game. So many people have downloaded that game. I mean, you make one game and make it decent, since there's so many people that have iPhones and they're looking to buy games, you can actually become a millionaire just off one game that you've spent a couple weeks worth of development time on.
Problem is a couple problems. One is that I think there's something on Kotaku that said there's over 6,000 games.
6,300 or something, yeah.
It's hard for your individual title to get any kind of limelight, even if it's amazing. I mean, iDracula was out for months and months before. I think you found it first out of our group, right?
Well, I found it, and I don't even remember why. I think I was just searching for something, and I saw that Orion's game. Oh, no, actually, you know what? Somebody on Twitter did the iDracula thing. Somebody in my Twitter friend list said, I'm playing iDracula, and it's really cool. So I checked it out, and it looked cool, and then I looked to see what else they had, and that's how I found the card game, so it was kind of the other way around. So yeah, it was just kind of word of mouth.
And I won't pay. I found that the pricing scheme of the iPhone games have broken me for even downloadable content. So I can't justify spending $20 for a game on Live Arcade when I could pay literally $1 or $2 or $3 on an iPhone.
It's the value menu of games.
It screws you up. Because even then, I bought a game for $8. They dropped the price down to $5, and I got furious. I will never pay over $2 for an iPhone game, so I'm not going to buy Orion until it comes down to $2.
The thing with iPhone games is that they get a little bit of notice, and then they want more sales, so they drop the price. So yeah, and dropping the price isn't like, oh yeah, wait 6 months or a year and the price will drop. No, it's like you wait a month, and a game that was $8 is now on sale for 99 cents.
And it can go back up, too.
Well, yeah, like with Bejeweled, I wanted to get a Bejeweled game, and it was like $7, and I'm like, I really don't want to pay $7. And so I waited, and they eventually had like a 99-cent sale going on. All these games, they're really good games, so if you want to be an early adopter, you wind up paying 2 or 3 times as much. But the cool thing about all this is that when you're talking 2 or 3 times as much, you're still only talking $3 or $4.
Galactrix. I want to play Galactrix really bad, and I'm not paying $20 for it. It might be the greatest game in the universe, but it screwed me up because I view it as an iPhone game, even though it's much, much more. So I won't buy it for $20. There's a website called App Shopper, AppShopper, which is different than Ass Hopper, because that's completely something. This has filters so you can watch the games, so you can pick the category of games and watch for price drops. And I just subscribe to the RSS, and I only get games when they come down in price. Little tip for people.
Next topic.
Does anybody care that Amazon's going to now sell used games?
Yes.
Care good or care bad?
Care good. The video game industry doesn't like the used game market because Epic doesn't make money when Ivan sells Gears of War to Bob.
Or to GameStop, which then Bob goes in and buys. There's 2 different things. If I sell my copy on eBay to Bob, I get all the profit. And then it's just as bad, if not worse, if I sell it to GameStop because they give me $20 for it and then turn around and sell it for $50. So not only is Bob getting a used version of the game that Epic doesn't get any money for, GameStop is making literally billions of dollars a year selling used games.
I think they said it was $2 billion a year. Amazon is doing a mail-in, so I've done it. I have some games that I've traded in, some old 360 games, and you browse their library, you do a search, and then you add it to your trade-in cart. And then you print out the shipping label right on your computer. You slap them in a box, you slap the shipping label on it, and you mail it out to them. And then they give you Amazon store credit, which is better than GameStop credit, because the problem with GameStop is you trade in 3 games to GameStop, and they say, well, I can give you cash. You'll have $9.47. Or you can get in-store credit. We'll give you $20.38. So you have to buy something in GameStop because they really make sure that you don't want to take your, a third of what you were going to get in-store credit. Amazon is Amazon, so they could sell everything. So if you wanted to buy groceries, you could now trade in games to buy groceries.
Are they only for console games?
It's all the consoles, and I think it's PC games. But the other thing to remember is that Amazon's trade-in service is still in beta. Electronics Boutique used to do this, and they found very quickly, and I believe GameStop did as well, where you mail in the games. They found pretty quickly that it wasn't profitable. So the CEO of GameStop said, yeah, right, like this is going to work. And then what was funny was that shares dropped from GameStop the very next day, like 20-something%.
I read the article. Essentially what he said is people don't want to mail something off, wait a week to get the credit. If they've got a game, they want to take the game in, trade it in, and then walk out with a new game, go home and play it. He at least has a point in that it's not going to be instant gratification. But honestly, if you could get twice as much by sending it into Amazon as you could get it at GameStop, then a lot of people will do that.
The Amazon prices are better. They're not twice as much, but you hit the nail on the head. His point is people want to bring in 4 games and buy Killzone 2 today, walk out of the store with Killzone 2 today, and then put it into their machines. I think it's a weak argument because I can trade in all the games that I don't like on Amazon whenever I want and leave that store credit sitting there. And Amazon on a lot of games guarantees same day. So if Killzone comes out on Tuesday, many games, not all games, but many games, Amazon will make sure that it is your house on Tuesday. Game companies, the industry is angry about this, but they can do things like putting in, you guys remember the flashback map pack for Gears of War? So it was 4 of the maps from Gears 1 came as a code in Gears 2. If Bob bought Gears of War 2 used, the dude before him probably already redeemed that code to get his 4 maps. So it's more incentive for Bob to buy the game new, which makes sense. The other thing is the DRM. I mean, World of Warcraft, If you sell that, you have to sell your whole account. Games on Steam, you can't sell unless you sell your whole Steam account. So I think there are intelligent ways to counteract this other than whining and complaining. But it's a GameStop Amazon fight. The industry wants both of them to lose because they want to get their cut. And, rightfully so.
But at the very least, it's good for the consumer. Before, you could go to EB Games or you could go to GameStop. Well, since GameStop bought EB Games, that's not an option anymore. So now if you're lucky, you've got these little brick and mortar places like CD Exchange or something, which you can still take it to. But a lot of people don't have those stores near them. And this is something anybody can do. It doesn't matter if you live in the middle of the country where the closest store of any sort is 20 miles away, let alone a place that you can trade games in. You can send it off to Amazon now. And it's competition, and competition is always good because it will drive down prices or drive up prices for what you're going to get in return.
It's cool because Steam is wise to this. So World of Goo was $5 this week. So I'm totally 100% cool with Steam's DRM because just like the iPhone store, prices are going to fluctuate. Xbox 360 and PSN, I believe, usually, I know Xbox does deals of the week now where they lower the prices sometimes, but it's sort of a standard on Steam and the iPhone store, whereas I don't think it's yet a standard on the other two. I'm in this mode now where I don't have a job, so I'm trading things. So I'm trading board games on Board Game Geek. I'm using services like Goozex to trade in old games to get new games because I don't want to pay $60 for a game.
Next topic.
Chris, a couple weeks ago, you went to the Fight Night Round 4 community events, but you can't talk about the game, right?
No, they have a NDA.
Okay, ignoring the game, can you talk about anything else?
Yes. Usually how community events work, and EA is moving more and more towards community events mean the dudes that play the game and enjoy the game, we want them to come in early so that they can give feedback that actually gets incorporated into the game. Whereas normally, you come in and they try and get you hyped up for the game, but any suggestions you have, it's way too late in the dev cycle. So EA is moving towards early. The downside is, of course, you can't talk about it because the game, we saw code that super early alpha. So it was cool that they're trusting and they're that open, but they brought us to a boxing rink, a boxing arena, whatever, a training ground, whatever you want to call it. I assumed, we're community people. They'll teach us how to throw a punch and we'll hit the bag for a couple minutes. No, dude had us running around for 45 minutes doing actual boxing.
With gamers. That should have...
Oh, man. It was... I'm not in the best shape in the world, but I'm notorious for every football practice in high school. There would be, during double sessions, I would literally just go puke. It was just part of what I did. I felt like I was going to puke, so I had to leave and I had to go into the bathroom and try and puke. They were having us running, and it was cool because Bob knows he hits the heavy bag all the time. You can't punch as hard as you want for more than about 50 seconds. And so he's like, all right, you're going to punch the bag for 3 minutes, go. And you're like, oh man, I'm tired. All right, well, while you're punching the bag, the other guy's doing push-ups. And like, push-ups are retarded. Anyone can do push-ups. Not if you've punched a bag for 3 minutes. So, and then they had 2 professional boxers show up. And I'm not the world's biggest boxing fan. I don't know all of the boxers. I know Rocky Balboa and Ivan Drago. Those are 2 of the guys that I know. Right?
2 of my favorite boxers, really.
So I know Shane Mosley. He's I don't know what weight class he's in.
He's like a middle or welterweight.
He wins all the freaking time. He's like one of those dudes that just wins.
Sugar Shane.
And the other one is Sergio Mora, who won. There's a boxing show called The Contender. It's like a reality TV show. And those 2 guys were there, so some of the community people actually got to spar against them. And he was a trip because he was purposefully not trying to just whoop their butt because even not in training, right? Like, he's a professional boxer. He punches and gets punched for a living. Here, gamer, come into the ring with me and try and punch me. Like, no, dude. Everyone would go home with a broken face. But we did Q&A, and he was funny because he was definitely not PR trained, whereas Sugar Shane you could tell he was in the game a little more, so he gave the correct answers, where the other dude said, no way, man, Oscar De La Hoya is a one-punch fighter. All he has is a good whatever, and I could totally whoop him. And then they asked, so how do you get yourself psyched up if you know you're going to lose? And Shane mostly said, I know I'm going to win every fight that I fight. I go into it with the attitude I can whoop this guy. And Sergio was like, oh, no, dude. Fast southpaws, I won't fight those guys. They give me problems, and I'd rather not get a bunch of losses. And so they started arguing back and forth about the psychology. And he was basically saying, you're BS. You're a liar. You don't really believe it. You just keep telling yourself that. It was funny. They were both cool. The event was great. We'll be able to talk about it soon. What I can say is I'm a fan of Fight Night Round 3, despite not really knowing boxing. I thought Fight Night Round 3 was really fun. Fight Night Round 4 is going to be 2 or 3 times better.
Next topic.
Keith and I did Dawn of War campaign co-op. The campaign gets better the more I play it. Multiplayer, Bob, Keith, and I played it 1 or 2 matches, and I think, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we are indifferent to negative slightly.
I enjoyed it a little.
I would prefer it the other way. I would have preferred a real build up, because it felt like all 3 of us, I think Bob picked Tyranids just to do it, just to see. So the first 30 seconds when everyone's running around trying to rush for these victory points, Bob's looking at his base and going, what's this dude do? What's that dude do? What's it? And then you hear, orcs alert, look out, there's some stuff beating me up. And then you got to try and figure out, oh, now what do I do?
And how does the co-op campaign work?
The co-op stuff was really good. So you normally have 4 units in Dawn of War 2. 2 of you are controlled by player 1, and 2 of them are controlled by player 2. So we discussed. Keith said, give me the commander and the regular units, and Chris, you can take the jumpy assault troops, and you can take the heavy weapon dude. So the downside, I guess it would be, is that the game is easier, because you only have to worry about 2 different units, while Keith has to control 2 units. So he can do things like flank a little bit easier than you can if you're just playing by yourself. I could completely micromanage. So I set up my heavy weapon dudes, and then I hopped around the map with my assault troops, and I pulled them out of battle at the right time. But it was so much fun. We played 6 or 7 missions in a row and then had to quit. You share the hosting player's campaign file. So Bob, what you did like about Warlord's Battlecry and creating a hero, you can't bring your hero into my game, unfortunately.
Right.
But I really enjoy Dawn of War.
And you paid $50 for it.
I paid $50 for it. I'm happy with it.
Next topic.
Mailbag. There, I said it.
This is from Seth. I have a question for everyone. How do you find time to play all the games and still have lives? I was a hardcore gamer in high school and college, but now that I'm 27 and working full-time, I find myself struggling to find time to play games more than 20 minutes at a time. About 4 months ago, I got into WoW. I had to stop playing because my projects were getting behind and my wife hated me playing. I was wondering how you guys manage time to work, do the podcast, and play as much games as you do, not to mention family life.
You're assuming we play a lot more than we do.
Well, Ivan plays a ton of WoW. Phil plays a ton of WoW. Bob, you play, what, a couple hours of gaming a week?
I only play on weekends, really. I mean, I might get like 20 minutes on a random weeknight, but yeah, it's mostly on weekends.
I probably play 30 hours a week or so. I would assume that Ivan and Phil are around that same ballpark. Chad, what are you?
When I get time, maybe an hour every other day, hour or two. Probably less than 10 a week. I do lots of work, man.
Yeah, some people have more time in this group than others to play games.
Well, some people have a lot more time right now.
I'm unemployed. I have all the time I need.
Hey, you need to catch up to Steve, man. He just hit level 80 today.
Dang. The other thing is I tried to get a job in video games, so that even when I was working, I was sort of playing games sometimes. But I think prioritization, so like with Heather and I, we have 2 televisions in the living room, so we're high-tech hillbillies, so she can watch American Idol and I can play Xbox. It's been trained amongst each other that I know she falls asleep at 7:30, 8 o'clock, so I disappear it when she falls asleep. That's usually what I hear is once the woman falls asleep, the dude goes to play games. So as the dude, you should make her comfortable at about 7 o'clock. You should put her favorite show on. You should put a blanket on her on the couch. You should make sure that when she falls asleep on you, you have to, quote, get up to pee before she's completely asleep so that when you come back, you can position yourself on the edge of the couch in the corner away from where her head is so that as soon as she's out, you like whisper, "Are you awake?" And if you don't hear an answer, you go play games.
Strategy from the video game show.
And that was Video Game Show episode number 132 for Sunday, March 8th, 2009. Any ham sandwiches or shattered dream pies to give to the world peoples? Anybody see Watchmen to give them anything?
I have not seen it.
You've not seen it? No one here? I'm the only one that's seen it?
There's a naked blue guy in it, right?
Okay, get over the naked blue guy. It is pretty good. It's a good adaptation of Watchmen. There are some changes at the end.
I'm going to commit comic book sacrilege and just say that the Watchmen has no appeal to me because the art looked crappy in the actual comic book, so I kind of don't care.
It was done in like 1985 or some crap like that, dude. I mean, none of the comics from 85 looked fantastic.
The graphics aside, the actual Watchmen story is not a very superhero-esque movie like Spider-Man or Batman.
Well, yeah, it's more about the story than it is about punchy pew pew pew.
Pew, pew, pew.
They shouldn't have drawn pictures then,
He kind of has a point.
right? Should have been a book.
So is the movie done kind of along the lines of like Sin City?
Even Sin City has a lot of action compared to Watchmen.
You're not selling the movie, Chad.
I know, that's the problem here. I don't think this movie's going to do very well because this is not like your typical superhero film. It looks like it from the trailers, but it's not.
And Zack Snyder, he's like some hot stuff director kind of guy.
You guys like 300.
I loved 300 because it was all action.
Yeah, this is not like... Well, some of the violence in Watchmen's pretty graphic. Guy gets a bone burst right through his arm.
Yeah, I'll probably catch it on Netflix when it comes out.
I can't not pee for as long as they want me to not pee. Because if it was just the length of the movie, that's fine, but that's not. If you have to get there in time, because, I'm really picky about where I sit. So I want a good seat. So I'll show up, 20 minutes before the showtime starts, unawares that they packed an hour's worth of material before the movie actually starts after the showtime. And then the movie's 2.5 hours long. And so I've been there for 4 hours. I gotta piss. And the last half hour of the movie is always very uncomfortable for me. And I just don't like it. I don't.
And you didn't even name the part where Morgan Freeman wants you to put change into that cup. Will Rogers Institute or whatever.
They show those over there?
I don't know.
I haven't seen one of those in years.
Maybe I'm not the right guy to ask.
Shows, well, last time you went to a movie, huh?
Ham sandwich to my mother for allowing my brother and I to crawl out of her uterus this week, 30 plus years ago.
It's a nice way to put it. Okay.
When's Keith?
Keith's is 3 days ago.
3 days ago. And yours is the 11th, right?
3 days from now. We are at the perfect storm, the median, if you will.
Couple quick announcements. First, one of our listeners, Blitzkrieg 1010, is doing a research survey on the perception of World War II. If you have a chance, take the survey. There's a link in the show notes. This week for the GamerCast Network Gaming Nights, they're playing Grand Theft Auto 4 on the Xbox 360. Go to the GamerCast Network forums at gamercastnetwork.com/forums for all the details. And as usual, send your comments, questions, queries, concerns, or a roll call question to the mailbag at mailbag@videogameshow.org. Skype us at videogameshow or call us at 320-300-GAME. That is a standard long-distance call and all normal fees apply. And that's a wrap. Good night.
I have to warn you, every 10 minutes for the next 30 minutes or so, I have to run back down and check my burgers because I forgot that it was almost 3:30. So
Jesus Christ, dude. It takes 6 minutes to make hamburgers. What the are you doing? Go back down and flip them. They're done.
I put them on the absolute lowest heat possible and cook them for 13 minutes and then flip them for another 10 because I don't like them pink on the inside. And I tried, I put Fiber One cereal in them to see what they
Jesus
taste like.
Christ. No, I'm about to have a Christian Bale rant on his ass. Look, I cannot stand when people do this because my sister does this too. She'll make oatmeal, but then put some soy protein or some in it, and all it tends to do is ruin the oatmeal. Or you put Fiber One in your damn hamburgers, and it ruins the hamburgers. How about this? If you're gonna put 2 tablespoons of Fiber One in your hamburgers, just eat 2 tablespoons of Fiber One and then cook some hamburgers and make them taste right. You'll get the Fiber One out of the way rather than having to eat 4 hamburgers that taste like because they got Fiber One in them.
But I don't know if they're going to taste like crap's my point.
They will taste like I know what? I've had this argument with him before about beef, and he won't eat it properly cooked, so I'll stop. I'm not going to berate you yet again, because I know I've done it at least once or twice already.
Everyone's beating up my Weight Watchers D&D. I don't have enough hit points for a real hamburger. Leave me alone.